We want to say hello to everyone who's joining us for this December GRIP-Birkman Coaches Cafe. We've got a few things we want to share with you about coming out of some of the values that we are pursuing, particularly I to we, and talking about some resources that might be really helpful to you at this time. Wayne Harris, you just before we went live on the recording, you were talking about a resource called Mural. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. And it allows you to do kind of almost it's the next best thing to doing it in person, is because it allows everybody on the call to be able to move and control their own piece. So if you're doing the Birkman grid, you can tell everybody, take your asterisk and put it on the grid where it is, and everybody can move and move their own stuff around, even on like the triangle with the my mind is going
triangle.
With the thingamajiggers. You have people move their own pieces.
Okay. Yeah.
And it really helps kind of bring it alive. It's same way as doing it live. It brings it alive for you and engages people, so they're not just sitting and watching. It does keep people engaged. So it's called Mural, Mural, and if you go to mural.co, that's mural.co/consultant. I don't know if it still is or not. It's been a while since I've used it, but they actually allowed consultants to go on and with a free download of it.
Cool. Now we've used also one thing that we did, I think we showed here a couple of months ago. We've tried using like PowerPoint, where you can share the PowerPoint with people and you don't actually turn the show on. You leave it in edit mode so that you can move the pieces around on it. And there's something that everybody already has. And then there's also Miro, M-I-R-O, that we demoed here early on, like in April, I think, of this year, that allows you to do some of that collaborative kind of thing too. So there are several of those collaborative type tools that are out there to be able to do it online. And another thing that we have used even is just with shared documents even in Google Docs, where you can share the document and you can have people move things around. And of course, you can use right here in Zoom, you have the annotate feature that we've talked about and we've used here before. And you can let people choose symbols and move those around in the annotate feature as well, and take a snapshot of it afterwards if you want to. I think we did that with the interests here not too long ago. So there are a good number of those kinds of tools out there. Jim, you were talking about, though, when you do get the opportunity to do a live team build with a team, and you get to get them out on the floor and do some of these floor exercises that we have, both with the Birkman and with the GRIP. And if you've been to online training and you haven't seen that demoed, how confident do you, and in your case, Jim, since you have only been to online training so far, how confident do you feel that you could do that exercise on the floor with people, not having actually participated in one yourself yet?
Well, I think, like, I kept doing a lot of work after the training that I did with you all. And so I connected with Pastor Roger out of North Kansas City Vineyard Church. And he utilizes GRIP-Birkman a bunch there. Yeah. And they were actually set up to have Paul come and speak there and work with them, but then Paul was not able to do that. And so I just keep trying to find ways to become more comfortable with it. He kind of walked me through what it looks like when he does it, and he sent me some additional things that I'm sure were all available in the training stuff. But I just keep shaking the tree to kind of gain greater confidence. My church, with some of my leadership, we've just started doing some GRIP-Birkman work, and I'm getting their paperwork back from them right now, and we'll start to do coaching with them. But I feel like with about 2 or 3 hours of prep right now, like I could put something together for a team build.
There you go. Yeah,
Yeah.
and you know, always if you feel like, you know, I'm a little uncertain about this, or I've got some questions about this, or I've got an idea that might work, I'm not sure, and you'd like to bounce that off of somebody, feel free to reach out, you know, to the community, reach out to your trainers, other people that you know, people here on the call even. And if you don't have somebody's email address and you're trying to get in touch with them, support@GRIP-Birkman.com. Anadon's always thrilled to help you. And I mean this sincerely. I don't just say that, you know, she's willing to do that. She really likes to help people get connected that way. And Anadon, if you're watching, you can send the check to my bank account. You've got the account information already. Yeah, no, she really loves to help with that. And
I emailed Grady, who had worked some with me.
Yeah.
And Grady was super responsive and helpful, and sent me some stuff even this week.
Yeah, and I think you'll find that true of, you know, everybody. So, you know, reach out if you are doing something that you feel a little uncomfortable about, or you've got a great idea, you'd like to bounce it off of somebody before you try it. That's great. Or go ahead and try your idea and then come back and tell the rest of us how it worked. You know, Phil, you know, we're happy for people to experiment, especially with new tools and ways of communicating. The things that we, you know, always want to stick to are going to be the principles, you know, the core beliefs. That's what we are most about with GRIP-Birkman. We talk a lot about the two assessments and how we use those. And as we use those, we do have to remember those are tools for who we are as a community. And who we are as a community is not just GRIP-Birkman. That is a way for us to identify ourselves. Who we are, well, let me just ask you guys, if we took away the assessments, would we still have a community like this? Would we still, if something happened, and don't get me wrong, nothing's going to happen. We don't have anything on the horizon. We're not about to lose anything. But if we did, would this community still continue to have something in common to hold us together? And that's not a rhetorical question. Hey, Les, welcome. I see your face popping up on my screen.
I don't think our mission changes any, you know, and so the thing that we should be bound by is that whole vision and mission of who we want to be. You know, that idea of building unity in the body of Christ so more people will know Jesus. That's a pretty impressive vision. And right now we use this set of tools to help us do that. But I hope that we're rallied around that vision and that mission, and that would be enough to keep us engaged as a community.
Yeah, good point, Les. That's, you know, it's kind of, I guess I was hoping that might be a leading question. I know as coaches, we're not supposed to ask leading questions. But it is something for us to consider, that there is something more than the assessments. I think most of us came to this community because we were looking for something. We were looking for a tool to help us with some purpose that we had in mind: team building, leadership development, personnel growth, mobilizing members, any number of different things that we were looking to try and do that brought us to this. And when we found this tool, GRIP-Birkman, it was like, oh, that's what I've been looking for, and I didn't know it. And so that initially may have brought us together. But I hope that what you just said, Les, is true, that it is really the mission of trying to build unity in the body of Christ. And how do we do that? We do it by helping individuals, helping teams, leaders to do a better job of stewarding what God has given them at this time. Well, as you might have guessed, I do have a little PowerPoint that I'm going to share just to kind of stimulate that real quick. So now building unity is what we're about. How do we do that? Well, it's a matter of the pronoun problem that we are addressing. In the church today, we have a pronoun problem, and it is we are using I much more than we use we. We ought to be thinking about the body of Christ and how we build that. So moving from I to we begins with stewardship. So this stewardship idea that we are stewards of what God has given us, we are stewards of our gifts, we're stewards of all the resources he has given us. We're also stewards of our gifts and the gifts of the team members that we are working with. We are stewards of those relationships. And I can't tell you how many times I have been in a team build and someone has said, oh, I never thought about the fact that I am a steward of my relationships, that concept is just a new concept for them. And of course, we get that from 1 Peter 4:10-11. Each of you should use whatever gift you've received to serve others as faithful stewards. There it is. Serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. If anyone speaks, they should do so as one who speaks the very words of God. If anyone serves, they should do so with the strength God provides, so that in all things God may be praised through Jesus Christ. To him be the glory and the power forever and ever. So we don't seek to understand ourselves or others better simply for purposes of self-awareness, but rather for purposes of stewardship, and it's in the context of relationships. Now, I shared that with you because I don't know if you all have noticed or not, but we have a new tool that is up and running on the GRIP-Birkman website. Have you guys seen the new "Here's What I Think of You" form that's on the website? All right, I see a couple of heads going up and down.
That's exactly why I had to get a hold of Grady, because those started coming into me from my team. And I'm like, Grady, what is this? Why do these things keep showing up in my email box? And so, yes.
Great. So have you had a chance to use it, Jim?
I'll use it in the next 2 or 3 weeks when I visit with people. I'll utilize that to talk to them about their gifts.
Okay. And
so tell me how I can better use it.
All right, Les Barnard, you used the paper form before, I think, and now
we've used the paper form, and now we're seeing with the people that are taking the GRIP. I see all of the electronic versions flying back and forth as they go back to the person who's taken the GRIP to give them that additional feedback as part of that whole kind of sober judgment, kind of discernment phase before they finally put their gifts into what they feel like is a settled space on their report.
Okay, so
and lots of them are using it. So it's working. It's actually working out much better now that it's electronically available and they see it as part of the suite.
Yes.
Than before, when it was simply a piece of paper that they would have to go and find a way to get to somebody and then get it back to them. So there's a lot more engagement with it now using the electronic form.
Okay, so you get like 5 people to fill out the form on you. And then the client, we'll refer to the person as the client. The individual gets their feedback from those 5 people. And now what do they do with it, Les? When they get that feedback from those 5 people, what do you tell them to do?
So because they have the opportunity they have a number of ways to reflect on what the GRIP is telling them. And so they can use the strengths and liabilities. They can and in the past, that was one of the primary ways that they would think through how to reorder what was happening. And so what we're asking them to do now is to include in that whole process of reordering and coming up with their gifts, the feedback they're getting from these other individuals. And it's interesting because in many respects, it's very confirming, but the odd time it is actually quite illuminating as well, because it's kind of like a GRIP version of a 360.
It is.
Right? And so that's not typically how we've thought about our gifts. Because we're so individually based, we've always thought of our gifts through our vision of how they get expressed, not through how other people seeing them expressed. And so I think it's quite illuminating for people. And I think the other thing that's interesting about it is that, you know, you can just go on the website and use that, right? So
Absolutely.
It's actually a really helpful way to think about giving people some additional feedback around what their gifts look like. And then my encouragement to people would be to allow that to also be involved in informing how you settle with your gifts.
Absolutely. Yeah, the 360 thing, this could be one of the most important pieces of the whole assessment.
Yeah, I agree.
If we use it properly, because we keep saying that you discover your gifts in the context of body life. Now, here's an opportunity to get feedback from from some people who have seen you in operation, not necessarily the team members you're working with right now. You get to choose the 5 people that you want to do the assessment or to give you feedback. People who have seen you using your gifts in ministry in real life. And the feedback you get from them helps you to understand better where your gifts are coming from. It can also sometimes be revealing, as you say, Les. I've had some people who have gotten their feedback and they said, oh, I had no idea I was coming across to other people this way. That's not at all the way that I intended for them to be seeing me. And wondering, well, is that really allowing my gift to come through? Or am I somehow misusing my gift? Just all kinds of things that come to their mind as they wonder. And now we can get them to go back and talk to those people and say, tell me some more about where you've seen this happening, how you saw this playing out in me.
Well, and I think it also, I'm sure eventually we all run into situations where there's a bit of gift projection going on.
Oh, sure.
And the 360 helps eliminate that as well, because there is something quite profound about having a group of people tell you how they see you show up in terms of your gifts. And I think it can be a really helpful piece for people. And Neil asked the question, can they go back and do that after the fact? And the answer to that is yes.
Absolutely.
You can just go on and click on that and then add in the email addresses and send it out. And then they will have that additional information to help them think through how they're processing what's happening with the gift, with the GRIP.
So that's a free tool that's available.
Yeah.
Yes, it's online right now.
I didn't realize it was free. I saw it, but I haven't used it. So
yeah, no additional cost. This is part of the GRIP assessment now, or it's back as part of the GRIP assignment, because we used to use the paper version, and we had that in the old workbook, the 1998 version of the workbook that had actually a sheet that you could photocopy and send to people. So it's finally back in an electronic form, the new improved version. And yeah, as a matter of fact, you as a coach will get copies of those as well. So now we're working on how do we turn that on or off, because if you've got a lot of people that you're working with right now, Ken DeMar, for example, a few weeks ago was working with a group of about 30 people, and all of a sudden he starts getting this flood of emails coming in from that. That means he's going to get 150 emails from all those people that have done those here's what I think of you for each of those other 30 people. But he said, hey, it's easy to just hit the delete button.
It is, but being able to turn that off and have it only go to the inviter, that would be really helpful, because I've had the same thing. I'm getting tons of these things, and it doesn't bother me so much, but because I don't manage my email, but my admin, it's driving her crazy. So,
John and Bosco, do you hear that? John and Bosco, if you're listening,
that'd be really helpful.
We are working on that. I said the same thing, Les. I want to see the final compilation, and I can get that from the client when I'm talking to him.
Yeah.
I don't
Where's
need
that
to see
located?
Jim, what you do when you click on My Progress, then you can look down there and you'll see the check marks of the different parts of the assessment that you have done. And if you have not done here's what I think of you, you'll see that it is not checked, and you'll be able to just start yours right. Okay, there's Ken's screen. We can see it now.
So what when you log in, if you go to My Progress, or if you go to Coach and call up a person.
Yeah.
So anybody who's your coach. So this is mine, but you can when you log in, if you log in as coach, it'll ask you to give you a name. You can look up that name.
Oh.
And then here's the review. Here's what I think of you results. When you click on that, it takes you to this page. So for example, I had my wife fill it out, and you put the name here, email address, and it tells you the status, and you say send. And so the person gets, here's what I think of you. It tells you right away if it's here. You can actually download it, look at the results, as well as you get an email. So that's simply part and parcel now of the process. And then as a coach, when you log in as a coach and look up a person's name in the search bar, what will come up is you'll see their leadership grip profile when it's done, and you'll see a list of all the here's what I think of you profiles.
So it's working really well now. The emails are going out. We're getting responses back. I was caught off guard last week because some of the people I have coached who are now coaches are getting their people to start doing these on them. And so I started getting all these emails from those people. And I said, whoa, who is this person who is sending this to me? Because it still had a few bugs. One of the bugs was I didn't know who, it didn't tell me who the client was, who was the person being assessed. It just told me who it was coming back from, because I got the same email that they were getting to themselves. There are a couple of bugs like that we know we got to work out. We're working on those, but it's really working well. It's working very, very well. And giving that feedback that, as we said, we had been saying, you can't fully understand your gifts except in the context of the body. And now here's the perfect opportunity to get feedback from the body before you get to a team build. Then when you get to that team build, some of the things that might be said there are going to be in a greater context. Some of the things that might have been said or revealed in that team build, the person might have needed to chew on them a little bit. They get a chance to chew on some of that stuff before they ever get there. And they get a chance to ask the team. They say, hey, some of you guys rated me, or some other people rated me, and they said this about me. Help me to get a better understanding of that. It really can provoke a lot of really, really good conversation.
If I can jump in here, I think too, it's one of the most powerful that I'm just finding the last little while, a powerful coaching opportunity. So was talking to a person the other day who's here's what I think of you was not a close reflection of what they considered their spiritual gifts to be. And so that gave us lots of opportunity to say, so why do you think that is? What context do they see you? How are you thinking about this? And it was kind of an eye opener for this person to help them understand themselves, because now suddenly you got somebody else saying, well, that's not really how I see your gifts being exercised in this team.
Yeah. And of course, the whole idea behind all of this is to provoke conversation, dialogue in the team, right? Because we're talking about going from I to we, and we requires more dialogue and not just reflection. Any other thoughts or questions about some of that?
Larry, I'm sitting here listening and going, I can't wait to use this. Just a brief case study in the absolute need of it. I'm an intentional interim in a small church. And one of the complaints about the pastor that left and all the conflict and stuff around him was that he just did his own thing. Didn't talk to anybody, just did his own thing. And which was true. But now, as I have been with this church for a year, in it's absolutely in the culture of the church that everybody does their own thing. And even to the point where I'm trying to, they had really no, quote, committees, which for a Baptist church is amazing, or teams. And so we've been launching some teams. And for instance, with one team that we launched, the obvious person that really had to go into that role, simply because he's been doing it as an individual, there's no way he should even, his whole assessment is on the Birkman. He's probably way over in the red. He's a doer. And he's one of those people that probably shouldn't be a leader, although he's a very influential and a great asset. But he just can't lead the team. He can't bring himself to lead the team, and he sees himself as a leader. And so I'm listening to this going, man, when COVID lets me be able to really get to this point where we can start doing some of these kinds of things, it's so important, because it absolutely has the culture of the church. This thing of I has the culture of the church. It's just holding it tightly. And people just don't see it. So this will be, a huge valuable asset to us as we continue to strive and make steps forward.
Wayne, a thought hits me that so many times in congregational churches, not denominationally congregational, but churches that are governed basically congregationally or with some kind of an idea of democracy in the church, that some of the problems we get into are the idea of, one person, one vote. I have my vote, I have my opinion. I'm able to express that even, when I make a proposal I want to vote on something, and I'm able to argue my reasons for it. It really works against the very concept of building unity, doesn't it? Because of that thing of, I'm exercising my rights and my opinion. I got myself into trouble one time as a younger minister when, someone said, well, it seems to me, and I just kind of cut him off and I said, I'm not really looking for your opinion. Right now, what I'm really looking for is God's opinion here. I'm trying to discover, what is God really saying to us? And, I would rather hear what God has to say than what you have to say. I had to come back and apologize later for the way that I addressed that. It was my true feeling. That really is what I was wanting to pursue. And I felt like we were setting ourselves up for division. In Latin America, where I was serving at that time, one guy could stand up and could make a proposal, and another guy could stand up and make another proposal. And all of a sudden we say, well, we're going to vote for Brother A's proposal or Brother B's proposal. Everybody that's for Brother A's proposal. And now all of a sudden we're lining up behind Brother A and behind Brother B. And we get into that very thing that Paul talked about. Some say I'm of Paul, and some say I'm of Apollos or Peter, and some say I'm of Christ. But, we are all supposed to be followers of one leader, and not just followers of our human leaders. And so I definitely agree with what you're saying there, Les. I think this can be an opportunity for us to say, hey, here's another chance for us to see, how is God building unity in the body? And Wayne, as you're talking about that, every man living in the book of Judges, each man doing what is right in his own.
Yeah. And when this stuff, and it's slowly coming out and being exposed, and people are beginning to realize what the true source of conflict, and they've had 15 or 20 years of revolving door pastors. Everybody's beginning to realize what the source of it is, and so, as you were talking about earlier, what holds us together as an organization are values. And it's been interesting to begin showing and talking about this church's corporate values and where they are and how to begin moving them forward. So I think this will be just a valuable tool in really helping people understand really where can I best be used and where can I best fit in. And that I think it's best thing I've seen out there is really to help churches be able to come around, and each individual pick up move, like we say, moving from the I to the we. It's just a phenomenal tool. So I'm glad to have this electronic version going now, because I've used it back in the 1998, 1999s, and the paper version. And so having this will be really helpful. Thank you.
Great. Yeah, keep us posted. We'd like to hear how that progresses as you deal with that church and try to help them discover the idea of moving from I to we. Yeah.
Well, and like you said earlier, part of that is in the congregational type of churches, structures are a big issue. And so how do you help the church move away from, everybody has their own voice to how do we have God's voice? And the process of discernment and leadership is a big part of this. And I think the GRIP-Birkman, because I plan on using the Birkman on the leaders, will be a big asset in this.
There you go. Are you going to use just your leadership grip, or are you trying to get everybody to do your leadership grip?
Yeah, I'm going to offer to everybody that will, and really strongly encourage those who are in some level of leadership to be a part of it. And then the key leaders, we're moving away. We're still going to be congregationally. This is where we're hopefully moving, congregationally led, but with some sort of elder structure. And so with those elders, I'll do the GRIP-Birkman, the full thing with them. But and then maybe it'll trickle down. I don't know how long I'll be there, but longer now than what it's supposed to have been. But just a fantastic tool to really build the team. So I've been using this at ground zero.
Yeah,
and will be.
Ken, I happen to know that you're doing something similar in an interimship also.
Yeah, I'm in a somewhere between 9 and 18 month transitional pastor role, helping a church whose pastor had been there for 37 years.
Wow.
And part of my agreement actually going in was that the staff and elders would agree to do a GRIP-Birkman. So so I've done it with the staff now. I've been there for 3 months. I've done it with the staff, and they all did both the GRIP-Birkman and the Here's What I Think of You. And then we're doing one-to-one conversations, team builds. And early in the new year, the elders board is going to do a GRIP-Birkman. And so, it's an amazing sense of helping them understand how they work together, how they bring value to each other. So I happened to think of it ahead of time and actually wrote it into the contract when they hired me, saying, if we're going to be effective here, there's some things that I think need to happen, and it will include this. And they agreed to it. So it's been it's been an easy sell.
Yeah. That's one of those things, because they say in the interim world, you never get more than you have once you get in. And Ken, great. I wish that would have gotten written in. But the trust level, I think, is high enough now where we can write it in. So yeah, if I ever do this again, it will be a part of the contract, along with the church assessment that we did.
That's great. Hey, thanks for sharing that.
One of the things that you can do in your situation, Wayne, is, because I've used this and it's worked really well, is find a few influencers that are with you and take them through it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you amplify the voices that are speaking to the value of this thing. Yeah. And that actually you can kind of develop a bit of a divide and conquer kind of mentality with that. And it gets to the point where people see and hear it enough that it makes it easier for you to kind of get that moving.
Yeah. Yeah. I've done it with the lady who's kind of my right arm admin person. She is a retired senior VP from Bank of America in the area of data processing. Yes. I've done it with her, and she's probably one of the most influential voices in the church. And so it's helped us work, just she and I work together, because it's like, I keep saying, we need to get you on the payroll. And she keeps telling me, you can't put me on the payroll because I'll quit. And she's an extreme volunteer that probably works 20 to 30 hours a week with me. And so we did it with her. And so, yeah, that's kind of what my plan is, to slowly introduce this. And a part of the church assessment that we did, which was a very in-depth through an organization called Vital Church Ministries. One of the things that pointed out was, our leadership structure needed changing, but also our leaders needed to be developed. And so they bought into that assessment and are willing to go down whatever pathway we can do with them.
Wow, that's exciting.
Yeah. Thanks, Les. Divide and conquer. I love it.
Yeah. No, and so many times if you are rolling out to an organization, you really need to get that, initial influencer sold on it with you. And then if you can get just the core leadership team to go through it, you get that leader one-on-one. And I especially want to have a one-on-one with that leader, at least a couple of meetings with that leader, if I can, before we ever come together with the team, so that the leader in the team build then can be the most vulnerable of everybody, sharing with people, here's what I've discovered about myself. How do you guys see that? If you can get him to do that, that team build experience is all you need then for them to say, hey, let's roll this out to the other teams that we're working with. Once you get them sold on it, then you can trickle down can work then.
Yeah, and I think this statement plays in a little bit, because especially with what I'm talking about here, is because we're going to be wanting to shift people into roles that fit them. And I read a really good quote last night from a guy named Will Mancini, and he said this. He said, "People don't resist change; they resist loss."
Ooh, let that sink in. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
People don't resist change; they resist loss.
Yeah. And there's a guy named Bridges that wrote a book on transformation, leading transformation, which is further than change. And he talks about the 4 P's in there, which is, problem, process, picture. And the last one, which I think we glaze over too many times, is people want to know in a change process, what's my part? Because I knew what that was, my part there was, but I don't know what it is there. And so how do we help people to move into their part and so that they feel valued in a way that they feel valued, and so, and be able to deal with that loss. So, I think this can be a huge tool towards doing that and effectively leading change. And especially when you're dealing with, Larry, a minute ago, you're talking about structure stuff. When you start dealing with structures, doing vision and values and all that kind of stuff is kind of fun, which is where we've been lately. But when we start working on structure stuff after the first of the year, I might seek some counsel and guidance, because when you start moving structures and people, that's that sense of loss that comes. And that's, to me, that's in working with churches, that's where the blowups tend to happen.
In every organization I have ever been a part of, I have seen that it is easier to start something new than it is to stop something old, because people feel vested in it. They, we've put so many years into this. How can we possibly say no? And, brother so-and-so or sister so-and-so was a part of this. And, if we stop doing this, it's like we're violating their memory or something. It's just really, really hard to stop doing something, but you can't keep adding new things and also keep doing the old things.
Right. Yeah. So the question is, how do you move from here to there.
Yeah,
And
right.
I recommend anybody working with that Bridges book, William Bridges. I think it's called Managing Transformation or something.
Yeah.
Leading Transformation.
It's called Managing Transitions.
Managing Transitions. That's it. Yeah.
That's
and
yeah.
it is a stunning book.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you
changed.
should be able to be involved in change without reading that book.
Absolutely. Yeah. And my understanding is Bridges is a Christian, lives in California, which is really kind of cool.
Yeah, he's passed away now.
Has he?
Yeah.
I've lost. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Bridges,
but
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
great book.
Oh, yeah.
Larry,
Yeah.
can I jump into something that was said earlier that we kind of passed over that I want to bring up?
Yeah, sure. By all means, Kim, please.
The comment, I can't remember even now who said it, but somebody said something about getting a key leader bought in. I found this too, that in my working with churches over the years, I've had really hard conversations with the senior pastor or with the key leader in the church, and saying the ability of this group to be effective and vulnerable is highly dependent upon your willingness to be vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
And your willingness to be transparent. And so, I think part of our coaching when we're coaching teams is so important to get the key people understanding that the minute you put up walls, your whole team's put up walls. The minute you take down those walls, your team is going to respond. And I can just think of times when the key leader, a senior pastor or a board member or a board chair or whatever, or maybe just one of the power people in the church suddenly decide, I am going to be vulnerable here and I'm going to be open. And it just is such an important aspect to building a team and to a team build. And so I want to just highlight that. Some of you mentioned in passing, but it's such an important aspect of how we help teams function.
Yeah, and I think it was interesting because what I heard Wayne say, this may not have been what he was saying, but what I heard Wayne say is that there's even a challenge in an organization getting people to galvanize around the idea of using the GRIP-Birkman. So that I think your process, Ken, that you're describing, we have to recognize that there's probably multiple steps at which we need to be doing that, right? So you have to get some people that agree and see the value of the GRIP-Birkman in the first place in order to be able to start moving it into the organization. And then once you do that, then those individuals not only become the voices to help bring it in, but yes, their vulnerability and their willingness to share the insights that they've gained from it add value to other people coming along and embracing it. So I think there's that multiple, it's all part of that change process.
Mm-hmm.
And the early adopters, right? And trying to get those early adopters in sync with you so that you actually are able to pull other people along.
Yeah, I don't know if any of you are familiar with the idea of balance theory, but basically what it says is nothing will change until something is knocked out of kilter. We have equilibrium in our life, and until something is out of equilibrium, we're not going to want the change. Because I think everybody wants something to change. Everybody sees something that they think is not completely right, and they would like something to change. The problem is we all have different things that we want to change, and we want to change the way we want it to change. And so when you're in a situation that has been basically stable, which might also mean stagnant for a very long time, then what do you do to shorten one of the legs on the chair so that people say, we've got to do something here in order to get this equilibrium back?
Yeah, and
Well,
I think that's I'm sorry,
Go ahead,
Les.
Wayne.
I was just going to say, I think that's one of the things, as horrendous. And I'm home today, able to do this call because I'm on quarantine right now.
Oh, bless you.
Two more days, no symptoms. So, but as horrendous as this coronavirus thing has been, it has probably for the ability to lead change in this particular situation I'm in, because we've had to quit doing so many things. And we've stayed, we've led, we've pressed in, but we've cared for And so the relationship stuff has gone way up, but it has been one of the biggest assets I've had. As horrible as it is, and I wish it wasn't there, it's been one of the biggest assets I've had in order for them to be able to start embracing change. And I think one of the things that, and I know a lot of you guys are denominational guys. I used to be, not anymore, but right now, this COVID has cut one leg off of the stool in every church. And churches are looking for tools and ways to move towards, a lot of them still want to go back. You can't go back, but a lot of them are looking for ways to move forward. How do we move forward? How can we regain our sense of balance and move into the future? This is an unprecedented time,
yes,
for the church here in North America and around the world. And I again, I'm a user and a believer in the GRIP-Birkman and the community. And so how can we, really come alongside churches and really walk with them in this? I think it's a huge piece.
Wow. What can we add to that? And here we are at the top of the hour again, guys. The time sure does fly when we're in talking about the heavy stuff. I think I would summarize it by saying, though, that we talk about need and expectations in the GRIP-Birkman until we can show someone that there is a need. The same thing is happening when you're trying to share the gospel with someone. You have to show them that they need something that they don't have, and how are you then going to lead them to want what they don't have? And so when we are able to show them there are some unmet needs here, don't you want to get those needs met? Here is a way that we can start to work towards that. And that's, I think, one of our biggest challenges is not starting with the assessments. That might be one of the mistakes that some of us have made in the past. I've got this great assessment that, man, you guys just need to do this. No, don't start with the assessment. Start with the need. Let's talk about what your need is here. And then, I've got a tool here that might help with that. It won't be the cure-all, but it can sure help us get some dialogue started that might be useful. And then go from there. So I think that's going to be our challenge, guys, as we continue with this pandemic, as we continue to want to be change agents as the body of Christ, as we want to see more and more people coming to faith and growing and using their gifts to be productive members of the body of Christ. All that's going to be a huge challenge for us. But I think we're up to it. We just have to let the Spirit work through us. Like we say, apply those principles that we say we believe in. Let's be a part of that as we help people move from I to we, being good stewards of the gifts God has given them. And as a result of that, we'll help them to build unity in the body of Christ so that more people will know Jesus. So keep it up, guys. God bless you. Merry Christmas to every one of you. And I look forward to seeing you next year, 2021.
Crazy.
It's awful, isn't it, to even think
Right.
about it? But it's going to be fun, man. It's going to be fun.
Yes.
Thanks so much, every one of you, for your contributions. And God bless you richly in this joyous season of the birth of our Savior. Bye-bye now.